I didn't even think I was going to watch it, actually. I hadn't planned to. And then I hadn't planned to. That just shows you how little faith I have in
modern television making, cinema,
right?
Or whatever
And
you
so,
want to call it.
but came around to it, and it got released, and I was like, what the hell? I'll just watch it. After some prodding from Two Sheds. Thanks a lot, Two Sheds.
Hey, you're welcome. Well, you know what it was? It's like when you eat something really bad, and you're like, dude, you got to taste this.
You got to try how shitty this tastes.
You got to try this. It's gross. Oh, man. It's so bad.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been watching like all of the YouTubers talk about this upcoming series, and basically like, hey, this is going to be a car wreck. You got to watch it. You know what I'm talking about?
And then therefore they want it to be a car wreck because it'll prove them right.
Right, but I mean they've been proved right. But I mean that I didn't go in there. I legitimately wanted to like it.
And you had no preconceived ideas about whether or not you would like it.
Right, and I tried to step out. I stepped outside of, okay, this isn't Tolkien, obviously. You know what I'm talking about? It's based off the work of Tolkien. And if you look at it like this was a story written by the people who play Lord of the Rings online, then it kind of makes a little bit more sense. The writing is pretty bad, you know. But first of all, let's talk about where the elf children are throwing rocks at the Swan.
Okay, so this is the introductory scene.
Elf children would not throw rocks. Like that was like the dumbest choice ever. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I'd have Absolutely. To say, yeah.
I mean, here's the thing. Like, you could have established Galadriel being a leader of elves by, like, all the little elven children, you know, being fascinated. Like, ooh, look what Galadriel did. She can do stuff that none of us can. Galadriel, how can he do it? Rather than doing like this, like, hey, let's throw rocks at that. I mean, look.
Or like have a boat race where they all race little paper boats, and Galadriel's comes out in front and it's about to win, and everyone's like, oh, she made the best boat, and then it turns into a swan. And that would be great to show not only how Galadriel's like a cut above the others, but to show the nature of an elf is to prize beauty. For Tolkien, elves were these like spiritual beings. Their main attribute, their main value was like an appreciation of natural beauty or beauty. And so that's why they were so obsessed with the light of the trees of Valinor, and that's why they were so obsessed with the Silmarils. The Silmarils were the things that they pursued to the earth's end. If someone were to make something beautiful, it would not be in the spirit of elven, or the spirit of an elf, or in the nature of an elf, to be like, look at that, I'll just chuck rocks at it. You know, this is not how elves act.
That's like I mean, again, that's just bad writing. That is like people who don't
understand.
Yeah, like Galadriel could have like flexed on them with the swan boat, and they could have been like, ooh.
They could have written a scene where she flexed on them, or just not flexed on them, because that sounds like she's kind of putting them down, and that isn't elf-like either.
Yeah.
But they could have depicted a scene where she shows herself to be a great person, a great leader, a brilliant mind, creative, intelligent, and all those things, and a cut above everyone else, without degrading the other elves.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of set the mood. And honestly, man, like, they're doing the elves a huge disservice in the way that they're writing them. Because, okay, let's take the cave troll scene now. Or, I mean, there's so many things that's wrong with. Oh, here we go. Look at this.
Yeah, I got a little cave troll action for you.
Okay, so you're watching this, right? And you're thinking, oh, man, these elves are getting ready to kick some butt, right?
Right.
But, oh, I can't get out of the way of that. Oh, my gosh.
I'm an idiot. I'm an idiot.
I'm a dumbass guy. You know, it's like these guys are like.
I'm just going to get picked up.
Okay. Like, elves don't fight like that.
Right.
I mean, dude.
They're just getting swatted by this dumb, lumbering old troll.
10 elves can take on 100 orcs with no problem. I mean, is Galadriel the only person who can fight in this? I mean, this
I
is
thought
so
they were
dumb.
supposed to be her, like, almost her guard.
Yeah,
Or
I know.
her, at least her, her co-fighters. I mean, why are they so? I mean, the only thing that they're good for apparently is as a ramp for her.
Right. But
this has got to be one. I mean, I hate.
Well, let me finish my point here.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay, but here's the thing: Galadriel would probably have tamed that cave troll, right? Like the real Galadriel, without even like she wouldn't have had a sword. I mean, she could have just probably I mean, she's
whistled.
She doesn't
whistle the show tune.
whatever. But what I'm saying is she's not a warrior. She her powers lie in protection and
right.
Preservation, and healing and all that stuff.
One of my favorite characters of all time in literature and in movies is Moll Flanders, by Daniel Defoe. Moll Flanders, I don't know if you've ever seen it. There's a great movie that came out in the mid-90s or something. And, but Moll Flanders is like a tough woman. She's a kind of a street smart woman, but she has faults. This person has no faults. Galadriel, she's considered noble and she's considered strong, but I'm not seeing any kind of she's conflicted only in the sense should I go west or should I stay here?
Right.
But that's not enough. There needs to be a sense of it kind of less than perfection that makes someone human and therefore relatable.
Yeah. There's a ton. Yeah, I know. But the thing is, you're talking about strong women, right?
Right.
Galadriel has always been a strong woman character.
Right.
You know what I'm talking about? She's always been oh man, Galadriel's going to show up, and she's going to she was head of the White Council, for God's sake.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, she was she was equal to anybody, if not better than anybody in Middle Earth, and that was understood. I don't understand why this departure. And again, I'm a little bit fired up, but because when I start talking about this, it's
the reason The Hobbit, I think, is and Lord of the Rings is so intriguing to a lot of viewers and readers is that it deals primarily with the Hobbit, who is almost a lowly creature, in the socio-political scheme of things. And so you're rooting, it's like you're rooting for the underdog.
Yeah, but
so it's hard to root for someone who's a commander of armies and who has is supposed to be faultless.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's hard to really relate to them because there's no dents, and it's too smooth. She's too smooth to get a grasp on. The lead in Vikings has tons of faults, and you almost hate him in some ways, and he's ruthless. But the one I mainly think of is something like the series Tudors, where King Henry VIII, you almost love to despise him. He's so terrible through most of the series.
Right.
But you still, there's this weird way that your heart goes out to him. I'm sorry, you might not, I don't think you saw the series, but I'm just saying you can have a show about a leader. Purports to be or looks to be a story about a leader, Galadriel. Tudors was a story about King Henry VIII, a leader, not some lowly person, but a ruler, a sovereign. But he was very troubled, and you instantly either loved to hate him or hated to love him. This Galadriel, I don't know what to make of her. She's just stoic and cold and kind of boring. Very well written.
I mean,
okay,
here's the thing, man. I mean, okay, I'm gonna stray a little bit from Galadriel. When Aragorn, Gimli, and Legolas were chasing the orcs, and when they were following him, right after Merry and Pippin were taken prisoner, Legolas was he was oh, I can sleep while I'm walking, and he was like a wood elf. These are the high elves,
right?
Why in this scene it's we're gonna rest here till the morning and then go. It's why would you rest here till the morning? They're yeah, nothing's here. Let's turn around and go. You know what I'm talking about? They slept while they walked.
So you're basically saying that these elves, we've already shown that they, there's something very un-elf-like about them, and you're also saying that they are just, they seem to be kind of more complainy. her little
Right.
companions here
Yeah,
are
but
like, this is too hard. We're
too hard.
tired. We want to go home.
This is what the elves do. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
They're like, we've been chasing them for 20 years. 20 years is like
Yeah, it's
3
nothing.
days for elves. You know what
Right.
I'm saying? I mean, how old is Galadriel at this point? She was around, like, all these people were probably around, or these elves were around for the first date. Oh, so dumb.
Right.
You know, and it's like they've been around for probably thousands of years at this point.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, you'd figure they'd learn how to fight somewhere along the line, right?
You'd think.
But I mean, but the people who wrote this,
Yeah.
people who wrote the story, it's like, did you even read The Lord of the Rings? I mean, or did you just watch the movies and use that as your basis for, you know,
Right.
how you think elves should be?
When it seemed like she was just going to like jump off the boat and swim back east, I was like, oh, okay, that's probably something she could do. You know, because she's Galadriel.
Yeah.
But then they brought her kind of sputtering out of the ocean onto the raft like she was going to die. The director here has to make a decision. Either she can like swim across the ocean no problem, or she can't swim across the ocean no problem, and choose which button you press. It's like either she's a badass elf who can swim across the ocean, or she's helpless. Because I guess the director suddenly wanted, we need to worry about Galadriel because, she needs to be helped onto this raft.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Which is,
because here's the thing. She should have just kept swimming past the raft. I mean, what reason did she have to swim to get on that raft? She could have just kept swimming east.
again, like, and like she has to like have help to get on the raft. It's like, again, there's nothing special about Galadriel other than they're telling us like this, you know, she needs to be special. I mean, like I said, these writers hate like Tolkien. You know, full disclosure, I'll probably watch this dumbass series too, just to kind of see if it gets any better,
right?
You know, and see where it goes. Initially, I heard that they were going to try to make this like Tolkien, where they were going to show relationships and stuff like that. You know, like in Game of Thrones. I mean, you know, the brothers banging the sister, and you know, there's all this like, you know, raunchy sex going on all over the place.
Right.
It's like, damn, girl, you know. I thought, like, I had heard rumor that they were going to try to do this with this. I don't know, like, and again, not a reliable source.
Okay.
You know, it's like these stories were written in a time when like there was, you know, I don't want to say there's an innocence. I don't think there's ever been like an innocence. I don't want to like idealize, but when people wrote stories, it was a complete escapism. You know what I'm talking about? It was like, you want to read a story that makes you feel good. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like, wow, I get, you know, and this series doesn't make me feel good at all.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, some people will say like, what's wrong? Are you not a fan of Tolkien? Or whatever, if you don't like this. And I'm like, I just don't recognize Tolkien in this world. Other than people's proper names. I don't recognize those names as being like related to the people that I was familiar with by the writing. You know what I mean? It's kind of like,
right.
I mean, they have Lord of the Rings slot machines now in Vegas.
I know.
And, you know, let's say someone says, hey, you like Lord of the Rings, sit down and play this Lord of the Rings slot machine in Vegas. And I'd be like, no thanks, it's not really my cup of tea. And they'll be like, what's wrong? Are you not a fan of Tolkien? And I'll be like, yeah, but that's exactly why I don't want to sit here and play a Lord of the Rings slot machine. You know what I mean?
Man, check it out. J.R. Tolkien wasn't a fan of Tolkien. You know what I'm saying? I mean, like that guy, like J.R.R. Tolkien and Christopher Tolkien were not fans of any of this crap. You know what I'm talking about?
No, they resisted a lot of this stuff.
I can just like picture some like, you know, dumbass millennial going up to Christopher Tolkien. What does it matter? You're not a fan of Tolkien?
Yeah, right.
You don't like the slot machine? You're stupid.
Right. No, I mean, Tolkien, there was going to be like even in the 60s, there was going to be like a Beatles does Lord of the Rings. And
I know.
Tolkien was like,
that would have been awesome.
I mean, it probably would have been kind of neat, but Tolkien himself and the director, the would-be director.
It's Kubrick.
Yes, it was Stanley Kubrick.
That would have been great.
And
it would have been dumb, but it would have been awesome.
No, but yeah, it would have been very 60s probably. But Tolkien was like, nah, I don't like this. And so he's very selective, and he used to complain about, depictions of Gollum in early illustrations, and he'd be like, I didn't really picture him that way.
So he wasn't a fan, though.
He's very precious of his own work, and so I do not think, he would probably roll his eyes at this stuff too. Like the idea that Galadriel would like be launched like a catapult by another elf's sword so that she can fight like in a very video game way to fight some cave troll.
Look, man,
it's just so like lowest common denominator thrills.
Right. But here's the thing, man. In The Hobbit, which again, that was kind of hit and miss for me. There was a lot of fat on that movie, right? Or on those 3 movies. But when Galadriel banished Sauron from the necromancer from Dol Guldur, that was cool.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? She did it in a very Galadriel kind of way. I was like, all right, I'm good with this.
Right.
I mean, she is by far the strongest. She's the strongest elf in Middle Earth. Strongest probably being that's not Sauron in Middle Earth. And
right.
I mean maybe like Gandalf and Saruman and Radagast if they could. Bombadil, yeah. But I mean, she could give everyone a run for money. I mean, like again, she's the first. She was. I mean. And I don't get any of this.
But I don't know that she'd be doing it with like ninja sword play.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like in that cave troll scene, in my mind, Galadriel would be more of like trying to like calm it down, tame it, like put it to sleep some way, And then the other.
Let's look at precedent. The precedent that's been set in like the Silmarillion, for instance. Look at when Beren and Luthien, they were dressed up like the wolf and the bat to get the Silmaril from Morgoth's crown, and Luthien, sang Morgoth to sleep with a beautiful song, and therefore kind of disarmed him and captivated him. And there was also this weird suggestion that Morgoth let his guard slip because he was like almost lustfully, like Luthien dropped her cloak, which was disguising her as a bat, disguising her as some kind of bat fell Thringwithel. Yeah. And Morgoth enraptured by her song, and then he kind of nodded off, allowing Beren, who Beren didn't attack him with a sword. He just kind of crept in and just
cut it up with a dagger, right?
Cut off the Silmaril from the crown with the dagger or whatever.
Yeah.
And that just shows that there's more ways to skin a cat than by doing like ninja kicks and backflips with a sword.
That was completely reminiscent, and this is like the biggest problem that I had with the Hobbit, of like the ninja dwarves.
Why does every dwarf have to sound like Fat Bastard?
Get in my belly. I'm gonna eat a baby. The other white meat. Sorry.
Yeah.
Dumb,
it's so stupid.
But you know what, man?
It's so stupid. And then all the hobbits had to be from Ireland.
Yeah.
They'd be like,
they sound like they're roadieing for U2.
Oh no. It's like the stupid Irish sound that they make. You're wondering that these two guys are supposed to be friends, and Durin, is it Durin Jr. or whatever? Durin the Fourth or whatever.
I thought there was only supposed to be one Durin at a time, but man,
But he's the king's son. He's Prince Durin.
So he's Junior Durin.
Durin Jr.
I think it's like Durin the Third or whatever.
I'm mad at you. You didn't come to my wedding.
You didn't come to my wedding and give me a gift.
And then
that's so dumb.
2 little babies, little burns. I don't know. And so he just gives him a hard time for not coming to his wedding, but it was so badly written. Nothing was explained. And so it was like, oh, he didn't come to your wedding. Well, did you send him an invitation? Did you send a runner to his house? Did he not get the invitation or what?
I know.
It just felt so stupid.
Here's what absolutely bothered me the most about this. it's been 20 years. It's like 20 years is like a drop in the bucket for like elves and for like that's like
and dwarves too, right?
Yeah, you haven't called me in a month and a half, you son of a bitch. You know, it's like
yeah. It
mean,
seemed
dude.
Once again, it was a case of the writers not understanding these races. Like it didn't seem like the kind of thing that would bother a dwarf. And if it did bother this dwarf, the dwarf wouldn't cry about it.
Right.
He would like send a messenger.
Dude, they had ravens back then. He could have been
or a foot or a scout or someone on foot and say, Prince Durin requests a meeting with Elrond.
You could, I mean, he could have like explained himself just write the lines a little bit different.
Right.
I sent numerous messages to you to come about my wedding, and I never heard a reply back. Why didn't you show up?
Right.
I just fixed it. You know what I'm saying?
You just fixed it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, like what am I, chopped liver? And again, it was so dumb.
Yeah.
Here's the thing.
And Elrond could have said, like, I was fighting dragons in the Southlands, or something.
I was chasing this imaginary necromancer that Gil-galad says doesn't.
I was working on my new line of Silmarils in my basement.
Right, but here's the other thing too. So like, he's like, you are banished from the kingdom of Khazad-dûm, right? And then he's like, okay, you can come back in. I mean, here's the thing, man. Like when you're looking at a leader and like, his word is shit. Then it's
right.
like
he's too fickle to be a real leader, to be taken seriously.
It's like that is like such a like and like you said, man, it's a trope. But I mean, there's a reason why that when a leader makes a hard decision, they got to stick by it, man. I mean, it's
right.
like Elrond should have like had to earn his way back into Khazad-dûm and did something like not to mention the reason he's there is stupid as shit anyway.
Yeah, it kind of made like you get this feeling that the male elves in this so far, Gil-galad, Celebrimbor, and to a certain extent Elrond are these industrialists that are out of touch. They're like, oh, we need to build a big factory. With factory, we can assert power and dominance over the world. Right. We can broaden our sphere of influence.
Yeah, so here's what happened. Like, Peter Jackson and Philippa Boyens, who did a wonderful job, right?
Right. I'm sorry, real quick, save your thought. The script, the screenplay of Fellowship was very impressive.
Right.
I thought.
Right. Yeah, it was great. Mm-hmm. It was really good.
I never had a problem with it.
Right. So, but what they did for the look of the whole thing, they got John Howe and Alan Lee, two of the most renowned Tolkien artists, and then they were and then you had Christopher Lee on scene, like there was like new Tolkien, and was correcting Peter Jackson. It's like, oh no, like and adding like that element,
right? And
then they just like the source material. It's like you can tell that it was done with great reverence for where this came from. This is just like, hey man, let's just do some stuff and put some cool looking elves in there.
Got all those proper names in there, and they're gonna be dressed to look slightly Hobbit-like and slightly elf-like and dwarf-like.
Right.
But in terms of the story and the mood, the feel, it's just not. It's just not there.
Yeah, but I mean, it is what it is, man. I mean, like I said, it's not Tolkien.
Yeah.